camera display just so that I can be a visible presence not only on the Twitch stream but also on the Discord channel as well. So I'm just doing some. Oh, I gotta start that captioning. I'm just doing some initial prep, getting the project ready. I think one of the difficulties I have is I teach so many topics and I jump around various different topics, some of them very, very closely related, that I usually spend this morning going, okay, these are my notes for the lecture today, but what did I cover last class and how far did I get? So that's always a little bit of an issue. But I believe we're just going to be diving into the art and philosophy of animating now. A lot of the, I think I spend a lot of time on just technical prep. And we need to get into the sort of the business of animating. The only difficulty with getting into the business of animating is that it can at times be boring to watch. It's like a process video. But I don't know. We'll see if we can talk through my process in terms of animating, and we'll sort of take it from there. So it's all going to be about key poses today. So we're going to be sort of examining that. I think there's a necessary shift back into the artistry of animation. So I'm going to try to be less technically focused today, which is going to be difficult for me because I love talking tech, but there we go. So I'm just setting project at the moment. There's a point in every project where your directory organization starts to schism, and then it's like a split, a seam split in a piece of clothing. If you're not careful, it just tears and gets out of control, right? And that's happening to me digitally, right? So the project with the Spidey characters was originally called Final Scene Hallway Fight. This was back a couple of years ago. And I've since renamed it Spidey and the Kid, because that's really what it's about. It's not, but the hallway fight. So I decided to migrate to that project. But now I'm like, what did I lecture last week? Was it this project or this project? I can see a couple of UWTSD ident projects have suddenly started to replicate in that folder, so I'm gonna have to delete those as well, but I gotta find out what the most recent version is. And yeah, that's that seam and it's starting to tear. So I need to get that under grips. Partially, the reason why this is happening is because the Perforce server is down. I'm very heavily reliant on Perforce in terms of version control and that sort of thing. It's sort of been kind of my production coordinator behind the scenes. So I don't have to really with Perforce in effect, I don't really have to think about what project, where, what file, right? So I need to get that Perforce server back up and running as soon as I conceivably can. All right, so I'm going to set that project. I'm going to take a peek. I don't know if this was the scene that I was working on, but let's take a quick look. There might not be anything in here. I went a fairly long way in terms of animating the fight sequence, but I think I'll start from scratch again. I've been rethinking it a little bit anyway. So it looks like I've got a reference to one of my prop files. Ooh, that's bad news. My name, my documents, props, SmithWright1. So let's ignore that reference. I do believe I've got a block out for a SmithWrite located somewhere else. You know what? I think I might have done that just to illustrate how referencing works. But we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to move on to something else. So we've got a couple of errors. There we go. Yeah, so we did bring one of our guys in and we started the posing process. So that's cool. We'll kind of walk through that. Now I should be seeing some selection sets down here, but I'm not seeing them. So that concerns me a little bit. I thought I'd set up the selection sets here. So I need to investigate whether or not that data is persistent with every sort of session or running instance of Maya. I.e., every time I launch Maya, I want to be able to have that available. Oh, looks like 9 o'clock. Let me flip over to Discord and see who we've got dropping in. Morning, guys. I'm just doing my little preamble on Twitch. Let's see. Let me turn on the screen. I'll go live. There you go. Okay, we'll give it a little maybe 5 minutes to let the stragglers come in. From there. All right. Oh yeah, you guys are the chatting group. So let me flip on over to intro to character. There you go. How's everybody doing this morning? Yeah, that good. Oh, okay, cool. Sweet. So Matthew's writing something. Uh, you know what? I'm now thinking. Tired. Just dropped my brother off at school. Yeah, it's an early morning start, isn't it, guys? That's why I usually give 5 or 10 minutes for stragglers to kind of pop in. Oh, it looks like we're getting a full ship's complement. People are dropping in. That's all good. I woke up a minute ago. Yeah. Well, to be fair, the benefit of lockdown and this type of digital learning, I guess, is that you just have to roll over and open your laptop lid and log in. So, that's pretty good. It's glorious. Yeah, you're going to miss it. Yeah, I don't know. I did try working from home once for 2 years. And people used to think, wow, that's the dream thing to do, isn't it? Work from home, get your home office and all that kind of stuff set up. I think it was bigger in the 90s, in the early 90s, late 80s. Yeah, where, it was there was a dot com, but one of many dot com booms, but one of the bigger dot com boom meant that there was a lot of people with home offices and stuff like that. But I hated it. I didn't like it. I think you've heard me refer to it before as having an exercise bike or a home gym. That's the metaphor for me, right? When you got an exercise bike or a home gym, it just ends up being a place to hang your clothes. You never actually work out. You actually have to physically travel to a gym. And then when you get there, you're just like, okay, I'm here. I might as well do something. And so you actually have a more productive exercise going to a gym. The act of physically going somewhere, I think, is a ritual that gets you into a particular mental state. And you're actually a little bit more productive. So I was really, really happy to go back in the studio. Nice Homer Simpson. Yeah, literally, yeah. You can just have a broomstick by your bed, flip open the laptop lid with a broomstick, hit the power on button. Or better yet, have you guys heard of AnyDesk? I'm using AnyDesk right now. I used to use TeamViewer, but they have a free version for using home networks and stuff like that. But AnyDesk is a little bit better. So the time for one whole year. Yeah, me too. Within a week or two, I think, and I still really want to just be able to work, go to uni from home. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I don't know. For me, it's just I'm just not that personality type, right? Oh, so AnyDesk, you guys, it takes a little bit of setting up, but something you might want to look at. But AnyDesk means you can remote pilot your PC from your phone. Should I be telling you this? Should I be exposing that potential to you guys? You can literally just be lying in bed and remote piloting your PC off your phone, right? Yeah, far more productive in a library. Yeah, I agree with you. I think again, you have to have that physical place that you need to go to. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm actually I this is good because I did want to start talking about this today. Aside from animating, uh, I'm not some kind of animal. um, yeah, I just wanted to ask how you guys were all doing out there because the COVID blues are starting to kick in. The COVID blahs, maybe, right? I think a lot of us might be feeling a little bit of that coronavirus fatigue starting to creep in a bit. I'm just hoping you guys are doing okay out there. It's a little bit rough. It can be a little bit rough. There can be the onset of lethargy. There could be difficulty in motivating yourself, right? But that's all kind of natural. And it's actually, let's talk a little bit about motivation because it's going to be little bit harder. Well, it's probably a lot harder now, right? Because of the current situations and conditions. So it takes a little bit more self motivation, a little bit more of you kicking yourself in your own behind to try and get going. Uh, I'm just here to tell you that that's normal. It's affecting everybody. It's affecting everybody in my household, right? So it's just about having that stamina to be able to kind of continue through this new normal until we get back to the old normal. So just hang in there, guys. Yeah. You know, some of us have, you know, spent most of our days in front of the computer anyway before lockdown. That's all fine and good, but situations are different. I got so bad with me, I started playing Overwatch. Where did I go wrong? Overwatch. Oh no, this Andrew's in trouble. Man, time for an intervention. No, just kidding. Overwatch is good. I have buddies who work on Overwatch. It's good. It's a good game. Doug, the alt-right mascot. Okay, I should play Peggle instead. I'm actually having a lot of fun slogging my way through the. What have I got in my PlayStation 4? The Resident Evil reboot. It's a lot of fun, and I've got Last of Us Part 2 on deck, so that's waiting to go. Uh, Resident Evil. I've always been sort of graphics and narrative horror, right? So I've always been drawn to just a great sort of cinematic experience and the subtleties of really well designed gameplay. As long as the gameplay is not glaringly um, awful, I don't mind, right? As long as I'm entertained. And the Resident Evil reboot has got some of the familiar mechanics. I mean, I think when I drop back into it, it's got the similar mechanics from the previous Resident Evils. And I don't think the control system or the attache case or whatever has changed, or the ability to switch weapons has changed, but it feels kludgy now. And I think the control schemes have moved on since the original Resident Evils. So that's probably my only complaint. But yeah, the Resident Evil games are fun, but this reboot just feels like boss battle after boss battle after boss battle. And so that's kind of, I'm getting close to the edge of just hitting the eject button and then consigning it to the graveyard of unfinished games. I was also playing chess by myself. No, I play chess by myself as well. I did a lot when I was younger. Uh, there's a weird kind of fun doing that. Time to the day to indulge myself. Yeah. I think the one thing that's to be wary of is just this kind of temptation, or not temptation, but just this, well, I guess, growing time that you spend online and in games. It's just expanding and expanding until it becomes your whole world. And I don't necessarily know if that's entirely healthy. Okay, a lot of people don't mind this. Just wanted to check in with you guys, make sure you guys are doing okay. From a mental health or well-being kind of perspective. But no, really, just I'm starting to feel it. I'm still starting to feel the COVID blahs. So I just want to make sure you guys are doing okay. Um, Also, remember, and I said this morning to another student. I'm not a results-oriented lecturer, right? I'm not here necessarily to say do this, do that. If you don't do that, why didn't you do that? And I'm going to assess you on this. I'm here to try to give you the tools so you can fly off on your own and do your own thing, right? I'm about trying to figure out how to help you guys bring your visions to life, right? So I'm not standing in judgment over you. I want to make sure you guys are so comfortable with the digital tools that when you leave this uni, you're just like, oh, I got this great idea. You know what? I'm gonna do it. And next thing you know, you're off and you're creating animated shorts and you're creating your own video games and that kind of thing, right? This is not like a law school or accounting course or a management course. This is games and cartoons and heroes and villains, right? So I don't want you to be concerned about the fact that you may be falling behind or that you don't get anything, right? Just come and talk to me and we'll sort of figure it out. Falling behind, we've all been there. I've been there, and it's one of these things that becomes this massive hole, right? And the more you fall behind, the less you know. The more you tend to skip class, the less and less and less you know, and it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're just like, I don't want to show up to class today because I have no idea what people are talking about. And then you miss another class, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just snowballs. And it's one of these things that we never really learn, do we? Right? Because this happened to me not just once in my life. It's not like it happened once and I went, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I continually do it. I've done it half a dozen times, right? So if you guys feel like you are falling behind, let me know, right? You don't have to climb completely out of that hole, but I can at least give you a step. And then the next day, another step. And then another step, right? And then we can start to get if you are behind, we can start to get you rolling, right? I'm actually going to really miss lockdown from very specific. It has been by far the best year of my life. Oh, okay. Thomas, if it's been the best year of your life, awesome. That's great. Yeah, okay. That I hyperfixate really easy is what gets me hooked on games sometimes. Yeah, good thing I don't really play often. Yeah, hyperfixation, I think that's a characteristic of the creative mind, right? Of artists in general, right? I think that's part and parcel of being a creative person, right? It means you dial down deep into one area or another, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just about redirection or focus, I suppose. Okay, everyone seems mentally all right out there. I just wanted to throw that out there because I've got my regulars on the chat. You guys who are chatting right now, you're the regulars. But there's quite a few people on here that I haven't heard from in months. But you're here, so that's cool. And you're listening. That's awesome, right? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. One of the things about being an artist, primarily, we are introverts. Primarily, not always, right? So introverted means you tend to be kind of shy and into yourself. That's cool. That's fine. I just want to check in with you guys, the ones that I never hear from, and make sure you're doing okay. That's all, right? If you're confident, you're following along with the lectures, and you're trying a few different things, and everything's going good, that's all good, right? Okay, I did notice a post the other day about rigging, and yeah. I will go back to what I said at the beginning of the year. Rigging and rendering are the two most technically complex areas in any kind of 3D software, right? And therefore, there's a lot of dependencies in rigging and rendering and lots of areas where things can go disastrously wrong, right? Constraints is one thing, referencing is another, right? My advice to you guys out there, if you have a character rig, you found a character rig, and it falls apart. Controls no longer work. Things are locked up here and there, right? You can either spend a day investigating the rig, trying to figure it out, but I wouldn't spend more than a day on it. If you have difficulty with a character rig, don't use that character. Just don't use it. This is an animation module. It's about movement and performance. There's a reason why I picked these bland characters that have no features, right? Because it's about bringing personality and character to the CG model through movement, right? And performance. So if you guys are struggling with a character model, then just switch back to a default kind of model, right? And then take it from there. And don't use that dragon model. I've seen this dragon model appear occasionally. It's just really complicated. You don't want to be using the dragon model, right? Okay, So there's a couple of things I want to sort out here first. I'm going to reset this gray plate. This gray plane is actually our grid. So I'm going to set up our grid. So I'm going to come down here and make some changes. And I'm going to say, okay, so there's 1,000 units. Wow, grid lines every 100 units. How big is this freaking guy? Okay, so let me check I'm going to go over to my Windows settings, preferences, and I'm going to check my units. We're in centimeters. So I want to measure this guy and make sure that we're relatively close to something that we can work with. Okay, so I want to make sure I've got some good scale in here. So I'm going to come in here real quick with distance measure tool. So I'm just going under the create menu and I'm going to create a measure tool, distance tool, right? Now I'm going to hold down the X button to snap this to the center of our world grid. And I'm going to hold down the X button to snap this to another part of the world grid, right? And then we're going to back out and we're going to see, okay, 177 centimeters. The height of an average male is 1.75 or 76 meters. So at 177 centimeters, this guy's properly in scale. So that's cool. I might take this guy and group it. I used to create a folder called construction objects. Maybe I'll just keep that naming. And I'm going to move this guy middle mouse button, drag him up and outside the hierarchy, right? So I'm going to come back here. That grid is still way too dense. So I'm going to go to my display grid, display grid, and we'll have 1,000 by 1,000 grid lines every 100 units. Let's try like one subdivision, right? So each grid line is 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters. So that's a meter. And how do I want to, it's really weird because I wanted to subdivide that by 5, but we got a dense grid, which is really weird. Oh, okay. So it must have held on to some latent data. Occasionally this shows up, a little bit of a bug, right? I thought it didn't make sense, but there we go. So I've divided this up by in every 5. Actually, it's best, I think, so if we got 100 units, it's best to do it in something that makes sense units wise. It just makes it easier, right? Dividing 100 centimeters by 5 will just give you weird things if you're, well, not really. It's just difficult to wrap your head around instantly when you're dealing with the Dewey Decimal System. Not the Dewey, the System International for metric units, right? So this is good. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a ground plane. Now I've got 2 different choices to do here in terms of creating props. I can either create the ground plane here in situ, or I can create a reference to a set file, but I'll do both actually. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a polygon primitive plane, pop that down on the ground, and let's get this to a size we can see it. Now I'm going to go over to my attribute editor and I'm going to set the polyplane so far with no subdivisions, right? Just because it makes it a little bit easier to cut into later on, right? And I'm going to make my little alleyway, right? And I'll probably move my reference character back because I want to bring Spider-Man into the world center, right? So I move this guy over. Right, and let's grab the character. I'm probably gonna delete all the I'm gonna delete all the keyframes that are currently on this character, and we'll repose this guy. Right, so got a little bit of an alleyway set. Now, generally in the process, we would block a few things. Too much stuff. Dragons must be eliminated. Oh yeah, you guys are talking about the don't use dragon. The Andrew's probably spot on. Dragons have 4 legs, animation of a quadruped is really hard for an experienced animator, right? They're very, very difficult to do. Any quadruped or any creature animation is a lot harder than it looks to do, right? In fact, it's such a special skill set that they have a separate department of animators that do solely creatures, right? So I would not recommend it. Okay, so wyverns. Yeah, wyverns. Yeah, the wingless dragons. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna edit, delete by type, history, modify, freeze transformations on that plane, because what I want to do is I want to export that plane and I want to re-import it as a referenced item, right? So I'm going to come over here and we will go to File, Export Selection, and I'm going to export this guy out into so Spidey and the kid, I got scenes. Yeah, we got props folder. So inside the props folder here, let's see if we can export this guy out as a Maya ASCII. What do we got there? So we got the Smith rights. So prop 2, I think will be my alley floor, right? And then we'll export that guy out. So I'm going to take this, delete it. I'm going to come in and File, Create Reference, and I'm going to reference my alley floor back in. There we go, right? Now, the reason why I did this is if I just want to go off and model the alley to my heart's content without the characters in there, I can. I've got it as a separate Maya file that I can open when I need, right? So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to create a group. And this group is going to be for my set. And I'm going to middle mouse button, drag it into my scene. So here we go. We've got our set, we've got our props, and we've got our characters, right? The props, there was a Smithwright in there. Let's see. I saw that Smithwright file. I'm kind of curious. So I'm going to come over to File, Create Reference, and I'm going to bring that Smithwright in as well. Oh, it's just a cube. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was using that for something else. All right, so I'm going to unreference it. So I'm going to go to my reference editor where I've got that Smithwright, and I'm just going to delete that reference. We'll remove it. That's cool. So let's set up our scene. Now that I've got my kind of world location figured out, I'm just going to come over to my display, and I'm going to turn off the grid for a second. And I believe I just started posing this guy out just as sort of an exercise. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some other characters in, right? So I've got my thugs group folder. Now, remember the icons by the nodes, right? The diamond node shows that that character group has been referenced in, but the regular group node, that's one I created here in this particular scene, and it's to help me organize things. Oh, you guys are going off on dragons. Okay, that's cool. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create another reference. And for this reference, I'm going to start bringing in my characters, right? So ideally, I should have kept the characters together. You know what? I think they're in here. What I want to do is I want to keep all of my content sort of bundled together. So I'm going to pop out here into Explorer. I'm going to go back into the Final Scene Hallway Fight dev folder. I'm going to grab my content folder. Well, at least these guys, characters and props. I'm going to copy those and I move them over. In my preamble on the Twitch stream, I talked about, yeah, I'll just repeat it with you guys. I talk about sometimes when you organize a project, there's a point that you get where it starts to get a little bit out of control on you. The metaphor I use is it's like having a tear in your jeans, right? If you're not careful, it just rips and it gets out of control, right? So for me, that tear happened when I said, you know what, it's not really a final scene hallway fight. I taught this scene file a year or two ago. I'm going to call it Spidey and the Kid. So I created a new project. And then I could create another project and another project. And next thing you know, I got a folder full of all these projects. And I'm like, which one was it again? Was it in here or here? I don't remember. Right? So you got to be careful. You got to be careful of those schisms that can sometimes be created. Oh, I've created a props folder. I wonder if it'll merge it in. Let's see if it'll merge it in. So now I'm just pasting my my contents, like my props and my environment in there. Now, this is a good opportunity to talk to you about how I'm organizing. There are two sort of different ways I've got this set up. So let's pop into here. Now, if we take a look at Final Scene Hallway Fight, you see inside there I have a development folder, content, and I've got the animation separated here, characters separated here, and props separated here. And each of these are their own Maya projects, right? This organization's different. Spidey and the Kid, I've used Maya's scene folder structure to organize everything. The reason why I wanted to do this is that I can just grab the Spidey and the Kid Maya project itself and know that everything's in there and I can bring everything with me, right? Well, why is that taking so long? All right. Quetzalcoatl. Yeah, the little, the demon guy. Thugs.group. See, every now and then I scroll back up through the chat just to check things out. Cancel that for a sec. All right. Oh, man, why is it taking so long? Come on. Those are not that big. Okay, while that's doing its thing, I'm going to take a look at the scripts associated with the hero because it doesn't look like it's in there. So the first thing I'm going to do, so this is 2020. So I want to implement the M-Gear toolset, which allows the Spider-Verse rig to operate properly in here, right? To do that, I can just drag and drop this Maya M-Gear script file into Maya, and it should do the rest. Now there's a problem here. I need to come in here and reset a few things before I can bring this tool set in. For those of you guys who don't know, just as a quick reminder, the Spider-Verse rig that we will be bringing in has some dependencies with external tools. So if you just grab that Spider-Verse rig, you grab this guy in here, and you grab that hero rig and bring it in, it's going to go, and you'll get this crushed sort of crushed character model. And so what's happening there? Well, the rig is a custom-built stretchy rig, right? Stretchy IK rig. I'm doing it injustice by calling it just a stretchy IK rig. There's a lot going on there. It's a really, really cool rig. But it was built with the M-Gear tool set. So if you do not have the M-Gear tool set, the character will not work. Thankfully, when you download the Spider-Verse rig, I think it comes bundled with the M-Gear tool set, right? So you come over to the README. Oh yeah, this guy did his README as a series of JPEG or PNG images, right? So you come in here. Once you grab that Spider-Verse rig, where's that dividing line? Oh, there it is. Difficult to see. Okay, so once you grab that content folder, right, you will get the instructions on what to do. And it's very simple. All you have to do is take this batch file, and a batch file, all it is just a text file, right? You take that text file, open it in Notepad or anything that can edit text, WordPad or whatever. And all you got to do is just change your user folder name and the path to your Maya. So we'll do that now. And then all you do is just drag and drop it, right? Oh, you can double click it actually, right? And then Maya will open with M-Gear in the menu. And this is what we need. But before we can do that, again, we need to edit it, right? So I'm going to pop back over into here. And we'll go back into where the MGear folder is. So these are the tools that need to be installed. You don't really have to touch that folder. So I'm going to come over to the Maya MGear batch file. I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit this. It should open up Notepad straight away. I shouldn't have to tell it to open Notepad, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll just open up. Oh, there it is. So, did you open? Might have opened on my Cintiq over here. Those of you guys don't know, if you have a window that opens off screen or on a monitor that you no longer have running, the way to kind of bring it back is to click on that application, Alt space, when you... Just about to tell you how to bring it back and it's not working. Okay, so Alt space. No, it's not doing it. All right. So Alt space usually gives you a little move kind of icon where you can go and you can just grab your window and bring it back. Oh, what is that? Why does it keep doing that? Man. I gotta reset that in my Windows settings somewhere. Anyway, so this is our command file, right? And basically how this batch file works is very, very simple, right? So we're setting the Maya module path to where my MTools are located, right? My MGear 311. Remember I showed you that folder? It's in here, right? So I just got to make sure the path is the same. Now the W drive is pointing to my cloud drive. How handy is that? As long as I map my cloud drive to every single computer with a drive letter W, it will always find my tools. I will never have to do this again, right? So that's one of the benefits of drive letter mapping, especially if you've got a cloud drive. This Google Cloud Drive is drive letter W on every machine I've got, right? So that's where it comes into play here. That one batch script, no matter where I bring it, will always find the W Global Artist Tools plugins, right? So here I've got my global plugins, Global Artist Tools. I was like, where is it? Global Artist Tools, plugins. Maya 2019. Now in this one, we probably want to go Maya 2020, and there's the MGear 340, right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this guy to Maya 2020, because that's the name of the folder, right? Plugins, Maya 2020, and this is MGear 340, which is the most recent version of MGears. If you got MGear 311, that'll work fine as well. I just like to run with the most recent, right? If you want to find the most recent, let's say you download the Spider-Verse rig and it comes with MGear 311, but you're just like, nah, Al's using 340. I want to use 340, right? It's very simple. You just come over here and just type in MGear, right? And you'll get, it's the very first thing that'll pop up. MGear framework, that's the rigging framework, right? It's here, and you can go and find the latest version and download it. I'm not going to walk you through that, right? So that's the animation framework that you need. Now we just need to tell it which version of Maya we're running, right? So thankfully, Autodesk has stabilized its naming convention since about Maya 2007 or so. So that now it always creates the same folders, the same executables, etc. So if I just go 20, it'll connect up everything, right? That was very clever of Autodesk to not change their directory naming or the structure of their application. But let's double check. So we're in Program Files, Autodesk, Maya 2020, bin. Yeah, that's where our Maya executable is, right? Okay, Maya. There we go. There's our Maya executable, right? So it's pointing to the right location, the right area. So we're all happy with that. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to save that. And wow, this is taking forever. I think I'm 5 hours, 45 minutes. No, okay. So I'll just reference the characters in from their original location. That's really annoying, man. They must. It's because it's streaming across the web. So there must be a lot happening at the moment in terms of data traffic online. Okay, so I'm going to come back into my UWTSD. I'm going to come back into, whoops, my digital sketchbook animation projects, demo reel. Oh. No, where did I put the, oh yeah, right. So it is in my projects. It was in here. That's right. So inside the hero folder, just going to double check here. Yep, just need to double click. And 2020 is launching. And hopefully we will have that available to us. It'll take a minute or two. And again, I'll review where you can find your plugins. You know what? On the top of this session, before you guys logged in, on the Twitch stream, I said I wasn't going to get technical. It was all going to be about the artistry of animation today. And here I am, diving into technical setup stuff. Great. All right. So yeah, once I get this set up and going, I'm going to get the tool set going. We're going to reference the characters in. And I'm not too worried about the fact that my content folder is located in a different directory. As long as I bring those characters in, set them up, and start animating, I can always redirect to where the new location of the reference files. That's the beauty of referencing. I can redirect to where the reference files have been moved to, and I won't lose the animation. Right? So that's the thing that makes me happy. Okay, so there's Maya 2020. I've opened up a second instance. I'm going to come back and close the first one. Let's save it. Because we don't want two instances of Maya running. That would just be a little bit nightmarish. Discord update loop. Ah, yeah, update loops. I hate those. Okay, so now I'm a bit concerned because M-Gears is not appearing across the top here. Although, when I click on Maya, it's not reacting. So perhaps it's still in its little preload phase. And we can just wait for it to kind of kick in. Come back to life. Come on, man. Come on. There it is. So our M-Gear toolset has loaded. It won't take that long to preload the next time you launch Maya, so don't worry about it. Something's still going on. Something's going on in the background. But it's cool. I wanted to do that anyway to make sure that I'm running with the M-Gear toolset 340 that's specifically designed for Maya 2020. So I'm kind of happy with that. Like I said, don't worry if you're just running MGears 311. It still works. I've tried it. I've tested it. Okay. Something is still bogging this down. There we go. Okay. So, file, file, file. And so now I'm going to set project. I'm going to go back. I'm going to set the project to Spidey and the Kid. And I'm going to open scene. And let's bring in this scene. Now it should remember all my referencing, so everything should be good. And errors have occurred. So please check the script editor for details. I'm going to take a quick peek at my script editor, make sure it's nothing crazy. It's just a couple of warnings about Mental Ray. So Mental Ray is an old renderer that's no longer supported by Autodesk, so I don't care. Don't care that I can't find Mental Ray. Now, I want to test Spidey straight away, so I'm going to go to my characters folder, and I'm going to create a reference and bring Spidey in, because I want to make sure that Spidey's working okay. Now, I'm going outside my directory, project directory, into my old final scene hallway fight. That's okay. When I move it over and I have to re-reference my character, it'll be fine. It'll find it. So I'm going to go to the Spider-Verse rig. I took the original Spider-Verse Ready 07 Maya, and I said, nah, I don't like that name. So I named him Hero 1. So let's reference Hero 1 in. It's the exact same Maya file. I just copied it and renamed it. Just because it's a little bit neater inside my outliner. I think there's some difficulty streaming with my Google Drive at the moment. It shouldn't be taking this long, so something must be up today. A lot of people booking holidays, maybe. So while this is loading, I'm gonna go on a tangent into the colloquial. Where's a good place to vacation here in Wales, guys? What's a good vacation spot? Pembrokeshire? I see that pop up quite a bit. Pembrokeshire, okay. Yeah, that piques my interest. Thomas's house? Yeah, can I bring my family? Well, Cardiganshire. Oh, interesting. I write that one down. I live in Pembrokeshire. Snowdon is great. Yeah, Snowdon. Yeah, that's a good point. Cardiganshire. Pembrokeshire. Snowdon might be too far. Remember, we're not allowed to travel too far. I can't remember what the limit is. I can't travel too far. But I have been seeing Pembrokeshire pop up. So okay, let's take a look at this. Errors have occurred. So let's check that script editor in a second. Shapes evaluation version. The file being opened contains a blend shape setup created by evaluation version of shapes. That's fine, right? Use of this data by an educational institution or for commercial purposes is a violation of the shapes license agreement. Yeah, so I'm a bit of a moral quandary here, but that Spider-Verse rig is available for free to the public community. So it's weird that they put educational institution because usually we're exempt. But let's go for it. We're not making any money or profit off of this. Okay, so errors have occurred. Well, let's take a quick peek in our script editor down here. Make sure it's nothing crazy. So it's looking for the NG Skin Tools. So NG Skin Tools is another tool set that we have to install to get the Spider-Verse rig to work, right? But let's go and take a look. Make sure our character has come in okay. So I'm going to select the Hero 1 route and hit the F key. And I just want to move this character to make sure he's working. Yeah, okay. So he comes apart from the skeleton because we also need the NG skin tools. But in a pinch, we can just start animating straight away. We'll be fine, right? But let's do this properly, right? So I'm gonna come over here and I'm going to go back to where I've got my artist tools, and I'm going to global artist tools, plugins. That was the MGear plugins. The NG skin tools should be in here. Anim School Picker. It's Malcolm Rig. Where did I put that? NG skin tools. Wouldn't be in here. Nope. Well, let's just grab it. I probably need a version update anyway. So let's pop another window open here. G Skin Tools. There you go. So ngskintools.com, right? Another plugin. Now, this is really important because one of the things I want to kind of encourage you guys to get used to is that very often, I mean, Maya's very robust, comes with a lot of really great out-of-the-box tool, but working with plugins becomes a way of life, whether you're in Unreal, which you guys are probably already familiar with, or whether you're in Maya, you know, you generally tend to utilize a lot of plugins. And it's not supposed to be a pain in the ass thing. It's actually better, right? That you have this extensible architecture that will allow you to put in whatever tools you need, right? So there's a community license, right? That's all we're after. And we will get the installer. I like a nice installer. I don't want to have to manually put files anywhere, right? So NG Skin Tools, I'm hoping that it's still going to be protected. Run anyway. I'm sorry. I'm hoping that it'll still work with, even though it's quite advanced in terms of version number, I'm hoping it'll still work with our existing Spider Rig, but we'll find out soon enough. It's all good though. And that's installing. So let's get NG Skin Tools. Pembrokeshire's the bomb. Okay, that's cool. I saw a couple places in Pembrokeshire. I will take that under advisement. Okay, so my apologies. I wasn't expecting to be installing plugins today, but I forgot that with this version of 2020, I didn't have the tools I needed to get this going straight away. That's okay. So there you go. That's installing. Cool. So I'm going to save this and restart it, and hopefully our skinning will fix itself, right? Let's save this. And let's see if I can just natively reopen it. NG Skin Tools 2. Okay. So I'm just going to come over to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager to look at all my plugins and make sure that that one loaded okay, right? So here I've got a list of all the plugins that I have available, and NG Skin Tools has not been turned on. So I'm going to turn on Loaded and Auto Load, and I'm going to close that. I'm going to reopen my file, and hopefully it'll just pick that up. Let's save that and then reopen it. Yeah, I love Folly Farm. I think Folly Farm is awesome. All right, so again, the shapes evaluation, etc., etc. So this should have fixed our skinning issue. If not, we'll just carry on because you can still animate him. No, that's not fixed it. That's okay. We can still animate this guy. So the Spider-Verse rig has got a whole schwap load of controls, right? So the first thing I want to do actually is to select the geometry on our guy here. And that's the joint, the geometry root. And I want to turn off the, oh, it's not, that's controller index numbering. Oh, actually, let's leave the index numbering on for a second. But there are a few different sorts of things that you can play with this particular character. That's the global controller node, and I believe this guy's, that's all. Yep, everything seems to be working. The skinning's working. It's all good, right? So I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to put him, middle mouse button, drag him into my character's group node. And inside there, I'm going to Control G to create another group node for our hero, right? And now I'm going to bring in some more bad guys. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to File, Create Reference, and let's bring in a couple of other characters. So let's go back up to our thugs, and I'm going to bring in the Dexter rig. Reference him in. I'll probably have to go and blow away some of the animation data on the hurt character. That's okay. I'll sort that out in a second. Let's grab that Dex rig. Now, with the group node, right? I try not to put transform data on the group node. I try to grab the placement controller, which is this little NURBS icon thing. I mean, that's what the placement controller is for, is to place your character. So instead of moving it by grabbing the whole group node, I'm going to use that controller. Now, you need to remain consistent whatever controller you use for global movement. You can't go, oh, I've moved it, I want to move him back. Oh, I'm too lazy. I'm just going to use the group node to move him back or whatever, right? Because you can see what will happen, right? Whoops. The guy will break apart, right? That's probably happened to you, some of you guys out there, where the geometry starts to come apart from the controls, or the geometry comes apart from the skeleton, right? It's because of the hierarchy of transform data being traveling through your character and affecting other pieces of your character. So long story short, I won't get into that. Long story short, grab the placement controller. That's what it was built for. It'll allow you to move and place your character, right? So I'm going to hit the F key. I hit the F key because I was starting to feel sluggish with the rotation and navigation. So when I hit the F key, the camera will frame up on what I've got selected, and I'll have more freedom of movement, right? So I brought him in. I'm not going to pose him just yet. I think I had him set up over here, right? And then I'm going to create another reference, and then we'll start doing the initial posing for our guys. So I'm going to come in here to create another reference. Let's bring in, we brought Dex in. Herc's already in there. Let's bring in Fred. Come on in, Fred. Now, again, I can always re-reference the character in, right? That's the one thing to remember. The animation data stays in this scene, so it won't affect my animation data. Oh yeah, so I had this problem before. The character is scale-wise too big, right? I don't like how big this dude is, right? So I'm gonna go over to my channel box and just take a look at the scales. I'm gonna select all of these scales, and I'm gonna middle mouse button and select all those scales, middle mouse button, and whoa, it's too sensitive. Bring them down just a touch. Something, whoa. The sensitivity is off the chart. 0.9, there we go, right? So that's all I'm after. Just bring them down a little bit in size. And I'm gonna take these guys and middle mouse button, drag them into the thugs group node so that they're nice and organized there. Let's bring in another character. I'm gonna create a reference for her. Let's bring in Jack. There's Jack, JJ, and Marv. Let's bring all these guys in. That'll be fun. Heatherton. Dinosaur Park. Oh, yeah, I know about the Dinosaur Park. We've been there. It's Danny Rogoff. Danny Rogoff. Something like that. That's a cool place. It's an awesome dinosaur park. We have this place in Canada called Drumheller. And it's like this cavernous thing in the middle of the prairies in Alberta. And I thought that was awesome. They had like 4 or 5 life-size dinosaur models. I'm like, this is great. And then I go to Danny Rogoff and I'm like, oh my God, it's so much better. So, yeah, Danny Rogoff's awesome. Love it. Okay, so this guy is also much too big. The other guy looks like an old man a little bit, but maybe in the posing I can change that. We'll see. Bit more of a littler guy, 0.9, right? So the universal controller scale is, my dad hit his head constantly walking up the walkway. That walkway is low, yeah, most definitely. I can see why they give out free hard hats. Let's bring in somebody else. Now, ideally, remember, guys, as well, that that was Jack, wasn't it? Yeah. That what you are, if you are working along with me now and doing everything that I'm doing now, this is the thing that you can be handing in, right? I allow you to, it's not like you can't work on your assessment during class, right? In fact, I encourage it, because if you run into an issue, you can say, hey, Al, I got a problem with this. And I'm right here. I'm like, sure, yeah, I can give you advice, help you out, right? Not as easy to get a hold of me after hours, after class hours, right? I try to respond to all my emails and stuff like that, but I'm like super scheduled. So it is best to kind of work along with me now. You don't even have to be doing what I'm doing. You could be animating your own, I don't know, dragon. But the fact is that you're here, you can ask me questions if you run into issues. This is a little kid. Don't want a little kid. Yeah, let's get rid of the little kid. I was just thinking, can I animate him in a way that he doesn't seem like a little kid? But nah, he's just way too kid looking. So JJ, you are out of there, right? So I opened up the reference editor and I'm removing him. He's gone. And let's bring in our last character and see what we're dealing with. So Marv. Oh yeah, Marv's a big fat guy, isn't he? Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bad guys to deal with. Yeah, I killed him. And I didn't bat an eyelid. Psycho. All right. There we go. Yeah. Big Marv. Now, Marv, I do know that I want to give Marv a weapon, like a bat. He's the only dude that's going to have a weapon, right? And that gives me an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about constraints for props. So this is what I mean about navigation window getting sluggish. I'm like yanking my mouse back and forth, but it's not moving a hell of a lot. So I want to reset the camera. So I've got Marv selected, and I hit F to frame up on him, and suddenly I've got that freedom back again, right? It just resets the camera transforms, and I can move him around again. So Marv is going to be a little bit bigger than the other guys. He's going to be, I don't know, our blob guy, right? So I'm going to hit those 3 scales on the universal controller and bring him up. I don't want to make him huge, just a little bit. Whoa, it's hard to control. All right, 1.1. Yeah, that's good. That's cool. I think I want to make this guy. Let's go back to our Herc rig, because I think Herc needs to be a little bit bigger as well. Right, so I'm going to come over here, bring him up just a touch. Just thinking about character silhouettes and things like that. So I'm going to grab our guy here. I think I want to bring him down just a little bit. Oh, geez. You know what? I don't want to wrestle with it anymore. It's 0.95. I just selected the 3 channels. There you go, 0.95. This guy most definitely a little bit smaller than that. I'm going to go 0.9. No, not the ground plane. So here, actually, this is where layers come in handy. So I'm going to grab this ground plane. I selected it by accident, and it's really annoying me, right? So with that geometry selected, I'm going to go over to my display layers, and I'm going to click on this icon. When you hover the cursor over it, it says create a new layer and assign selected object. Cool. I'm going to do that. Before I forget, I'm going to name it. And I usually leave the layer as part of it, right? And this will be my set. So I'm going to put all my alley pieces in here. Now what I can do with that in the layer there is that I can hit the T key, which will template it. What that means is it'll only show me a grayed out wireframe and I cannot select it. But I still want to see the ground plane itself. I don't want to accidentally select it, right? So I click here again, I get R, right? And what R means is I can see it fully textured, fully material, whatever state the prop is in. I just can't select it. So that's handy. It means I can now select this guy and it won't select my ground plane, right? And we're going to bring him down to 0.85, right? Smaller, tiny guy, but he doesn't look like a kid. So that's good. Let's try 0.87 actually. Don't want him that small. So we got our, maybe we could bring this guy back up to 1. No, he still looks too big. 0.95 perhaps. That might be okay. Now I'm just pushing and pulling the sizes. Okay, 1.2. Yes, I'm happy with that. I think that's cool. This guy, size-wise, is competing with this guy. So maybe we'll go. Let's bring him back up to 1. Check that out again. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to leave him at 1. Yes, I'm happy with that. So that's our gang. Right. Oh, okay, there's a question. I got this idea for my assignment. Do you think that would suit the brief? Let's take a look. I'm just having a quick look here. Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. That's good. Okay, so you can have a very, very simple kind of interaction, right? The one thing that you have to be really wary of is the conflict and the resolution, right? Or before that, what is the character's intention, right? What is the intention? What is the obstacle to achieving that objective? And what is the resolution? So I don't really see a resolution. I see the shoulder shrug, pause, but that's not really a resolution, right? So there has to be something, right? And in terms of your short scenario, could be a gag, right? Like, so, yeah, I don't know, off the top of my head. So he's trying the fishing, the line breaks, right? He sits down, gets angry, frustrated, takes all of his fishing kit, throws it in the water, and the big splash shoots a fish out, and the fish lands beside him, right? Or something like that, right? But I would definitely brainstorm some kind of gag or resolution to the dilemma, right? Also, and this is for everybody, right? When you are designing shots for the very first time, you will invariably choose 2 camera angles, right? Eye level and 45-degree down shot. Do you know why majority of people pick eye level and 45-degree down shot? Do you guys know why? When they're setting up their camera view, I'm pausing and waiting because this is important that you guys answer me. Why, when people are storyboarding shots for the very first time and never done any shot design, they design things at eye level or 45-degree down shot. It's psychological. Whilst I'm waiting for answers to type, here's something that I want to ask you about. Why do we go to the movies? So I'd like an answer to that one too. Why do we go to the movies? They're easier to draw. Yeah, it's being easier to draw is sort of an ancillary benefit of this. We draw our initial shot designs happen at eye level for an obvious reason. That's what we see every day, eye level, right? So when we're designing shots, we're trying to figure out what kind of information we need. So we put the information that we need in front of us so we can look at it. Why 45-degree down angle? Other more common popular thought, popular camera angle for first-time sort of shot designers. I'll wait for Matthew to finish typing, then I shall answer. And Matthew, stop typing. Because 45-degree down shot is the view we have looking down at our computer keyboard, or looking down at our dinner when we're sat at the dinner table, or looking down when we're putting together our, I don't know, diorama project for comprehensive school, right? It's just that 45-degree down angle, right? And it's another view that we see every single day, especially when we're trying to figure something out. So if you're trying to figure something out at your desk, that's how you look. And that's why when people are designing shots for the very first time, they have that angle as well, because they're just trying to figure out how they're going to structure their story, right? So then why do we go to the movies? Or we're not going to the movies now. We shouldn't be going to the movies. But why do we watch movies? Let's just put it that way. Escape reality, yes. No, because we want to, but we need to know why we want to, right? That's what I'm digging for, right? Part of being creative, especially in a commercial creative industry, is we have to get to the root of why we want something, right? And one of the reasons why is to escape reality. That's exactly the answer I was looking for, right? So if somebody wants to escape reality, we watch movies so that we can see something we don't see every single day. That's our reality. Our reality is what we see every single day. So when I sit down, I want to see something I've never seen before. It activates the good chemicals in our brain. Yeah, there's a whole 2-hour lecture that I can give you dedicated to that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The dopamine response and on and on and on. So if we go to the movies to escape reality, to see the things we don't see every single day, why would you choose a camera angle that people see every single day? So, my goal, and you can have shots that show eye level and 45-degree down angle. I'll talk about that. It's creatively where you put them that's really important. But when I am designing shots, right, there are a series of questions that I ask myself that help me. This might help you, right? I spent years as a storyboard artist, right? So when I sit down and I go, okay, how am I going to design the shot? First question I ask myself is left to right or right to left? First question. Very first question, right? Because if an action happens from left to right, it's comfortable. Do you know why it's comfortable? It's because that's how we read, left to right. Now I'm talking Western context only, but that's okay, right? If the action's going from right to left, it's uncomfortable, instantly uncomfortable, right? Because that's not how we're used to reading. So left to right, right to left, screen direction, really important. Next shot, and I'll leave it there. The next shot is up shot or down shot. I never ask myself either, up shot or down shot. So why do I ask myself up shot or down shot? When you look down on something, wait, somebody's typing. I want to see what they type. How does the angle dictate mood and atmosphere? We need to know that. You know, because well, basically, okay, what the answers I'm trying to get you to kind of dig deeper is because it's like me saying, you know, why do you like apple pie? Because it tastes good. Okay, well, why does it taste good? I don't know, because it does. It tastes good. And, you know, imagine I'm asking you this and you're in a school where you're learning cooking, right? I don't like apple pie. All right, cherry pie, lemon pie, whatever, cheesecake, right? So it's like you guys are in cooking school and I've just asked you, why does this pie work? And you go, because it tastes good, right? No, we need the ingredients. We need to figure out, okay, you used jazz apples in this recipe, and jazz apples have a natural sweetness and crunchiness, right? There you go. So we're starting to kind of understand. So this is the same thing with me asking you about shots. We need to dig deeper into why certain shots give us an emotional context. So looking down on a character would be like intimidating the character and posing like, thank you. That is what I was after. That's the crunchy jazz apple that makes that apple pie taste good. Right? We're looking for those ingredients. So very simply, up shot or down shot. When you're looking down on something, you are like God, right? You have all the power. When you're looking up at something, the character has all the power. The character's towering over you, right? Yes, absolutely, right? Now, I'm overly generalizing, but you guys can start to see that I'm thinking about the emotional impact of what is happening when action's moving left to right, right to left, or if it's an upshot or a downshot, right? Freeform jazz apple. So to know what shot we want to choose, we have to go back to the fishing example, right? Here, I'll pop this over. We have to go to this example. And if we zoom in, and the first shot, if we go left to right, right to left, upshot or downshot, we can't just pick it arbitrarily. Because I could say, oh yeah, let's make it an upshot. That'll be really, really creepy. And, you know, he's going to be really powerful and it's going to look really cool. Believe it or not, I've met lots of storyboard artists who think that way. They're just like, yeah, upshot. He's fishing. He's got all kinds of power. But it doesn't fit what? Yes, it doesn't fit the character and their motivations. Ah, there it is again. There it is again. Before we can animate, before we can shot design, before we can do concept art, before we can do anything creative, we need to know the emotions of our characters. And we need to act it out. It always goes back to that. Always goes back to you need to understand your characters on an emotional level. Otherwise, everything you do art-wise will just be explanatory, like a freaking documentary, which is fine. Documentary is an art form in and of itself. It's just not my cup of tea, right? We are not just arbitrarily pointing a camera at something just to capture movement. Otherwise, you know, you'll just end up with a series of holiday photos, right? You don't want that. You want to enhance the drama, right? So whether or not you did it deliberately or not, our character is facing right to left. He's about to have a very difficult time, right? You may have made that artistic choice subconsciously. I don't know if you did it deliberately, right? But because we know the rest of the story, we know the struggle the character is going to go through, we have that, right? Now, what is the focus of the shot? Now, I ask you that because we have, well, actually, let's talk about upshot or downshot, right? So here again, what sort of state do you want to put this character in the beginning? Do you want to make him powerless? Well, then jack that camera up, right? Do you want to make him feel powerful? Okay, then maybe the upshot will look good, or the low angle will look good, right? It really kind of depends on what kind of story that you're trying to weave, right? You've actually put the character dead center of the frame almost, giving equal weight to the character and to the fishing rod, right? Do you want to do that? I don't know. Do you want to make the fishing rod more important, right? I would, off the top of my head, that's sort of where I'd go. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's never done fishing before and he's scared of it. Well, then I would make 3/4 of the frame filled with a fishing rod, like it fills his entire world, right? So anyway, I don't want to go into shot analysis, but these are some of the tools. I've got dozens and dozens of tools when I'm sitting down and shot designing, but those are the first 2 questions I ask myself, and that might help you, right? For me, I avoid anything eye level unless I'm trying to create an effect, right? Like when somebody's stunned and can't quite process something. That's a good point for an eye level shot. But the shot is there to push the emotion of the scene, right? Not the other way around. Okay. I'm not saying it's wrong. I like the conflict that you're building up. And this is a first pass. So my first pass is always eye level, right? Because you're just trying to figure out your story. There's nothing wrong with that. Second pass, that's when you go, okay, well, what can we push and pull emotionally? What can we amplify in terms of the narrative moment that we're looking at, right? So it's just that decision factor that I want you to consider on your next pass. Okay, so let's, I do need to reference a couple more things in here. Oh my God, you are like totally the distracting group, man. I swear to God. I always try to soldier through all my lecture material, and you guys always get me on a tangent. Always, always, always. Okay, so it's the 20 past. So let's get some of our props kind of working in here, all referenced in, get our scene set up. I'm starting to get a bit messy here, so let's grab these other thugs. We'll move them into the thugs folder, and I'm going to grab the Casey rig and move him in with the hero, right? And I'm going to come over here, and we're going to grab that Casey rig. I just want to check the scaling. Scaling looks good to me. That's cool. It's ready to go. All right. I do remember posing this character up, but yeah, we'll do it again real quick. Okay, and so there's a couple of other things that I need here. I need a toy. So I'm going to create a reference, and now we'll bring in a prop. So I'm going to go into my prop folder, and in my props folder, I think I used Wall-E actually. So I'll bring in the Wall-E rig. Oh yeah, I had a problem with this prop. I'm going to try this again, but there was a situation where I couldn't scale the prop up. But let's take a look at it again. Because the prop was quite small. He's coming in bits and pieces too. I'm going to control group this. This will be my Wall-E. I'm just going to call it toy, just to make it stand out in my outliner. I can grab it straight away. And got a little bit of a lag here. Quick sec. So I'm going to go into my controls. Oh yeah, this rig is a bit of a funny setup. Let me see if I can focus in on him. Yeah, we need to find the central controller here, which is, yeah. I want to make sure I grab the NURBS, not the group node. And we can move him out. And I'm going to see if I can. Yeah, he's got a funny response to the scaling. So that concerns me a bit. You can see that the controls are coming, although his main body controls seem to be okay. Just want to make him a little bit bigger. No, he's not scaling at all. Which signals to me that there's probably a universal scale, but it's probably located on a controller somewhere. That's the head transform. Ah, man. Okay. So, yeah, we're just going to have a leave it at that. Well, actually, I'm wondering if I can. Okay, I'm going to try a little trick, right? So what I need to do is I need to have something that has transforms that will travel through the character but not affect their offset with each other, right? So I wonder if my group node will do it actually. So if I come over here, let me go into my modify center pivot. I was going to bring in a locator, but this might do actually. Hang on a sec. Let's bring our guy first of all back to center. So I'm going to zero him out. And I'm wondering if I can maintain that scaling on the group node. No, the rig just comes apart. No, I get the same result with a locator now that I think it through. I'm going to have to find on the rig somewhere where I can control universal scaling. And I know it's there because any rigger worth of salt will have some sort of universal scaling control. It's got to be there somewhere. Yeah, that's right. When I first laid out the scene, I think I kept that Wally at the same size. I just want him a touch bigger, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to save this off. I'm going to make sure that I've got incremental save scene turned on. And that should be our setup ready to go. Okay, so it's 10:23 now. I'm going to duck out, grab a refill of coffee, and then come back, and hopefully we can start posing these characters out. So we'll take a little bit more than a 5-minute break. I'll pop back on at 10:30. Okay, I'll talk to you guys in a bit. And I'm going to click on the old be right back. Hey, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ah. Okay, we're back in. All right. Got a couple minutes to fire down a bit of breakfast. Good. Okay, I'm back in a touch early. It's having a bit of breakfast here. Oh, that's cold. Oh well. Ratatouille is a classic. Yeah. Oh, cool. Some animated clips here. Oh, sweet. TV. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit about posing. I'm probably going to start over with the bad guys because they're easier to kind of deal with. Actually, we got a minute or two. Maybe pop back in here and see if I can find if there's a universal scaling. Mesh joints, IK controls. Let's go on the controls. Looks like a quite a complicated rig actually. Track controls, torso, top, arm, eyebrow. Cool. I'm not too keen on how this rigger organized all of their animation controls, but there you go. As a root control, will the top control do it? Let's take a look at the top control. Might be universal scaling on this guy. Let's see. Should have been this one, but it isn't. Because of its location in the hierarchy, I wonder if that would do it actually. Let's try that. I'm going to zero this rig out. We're going to go to the top controls group node, but then it's not going to propagate the transforms. Yeah, no, that's not going to work either. That central controller should have given me universal scaling. I could probably figure it out if I dove into this rig and try to figure out all the different transform dependencies, but I'm too lazy for that. Don't want to do that. All right. Let's pop over and deal with these bad guys. The reason why I'm going to go over to the bad guys first is because it's more sort of straightforward posing. It's they're all individual characters, right? And we can deal with them one-on-one. When we come back to Spider-Man, Spider-Man's going to be holding the baby, and it's a whole other can of worms to animate two characters interacting together, right? In terms of an artistic process, right? When you're animating two characters separately, you're animating two characters. The minute they make contact with each other, you're actually animating a single entity. And I'll get to that. It's an old Disney philosophy, actually. Okay, so first of all, I want to sort out kind of placement of these guys from an artistic point of view, right? So I know that I want the big guy sort of casually sort of posed in the background. He's going to be looking forward, but his body's going to be posed in the background. I am going to, let's create a temp placeholder prop for the time being. I'm going to, again, export this guy out, bring it back in as a reference prop. But for now, let's get it out there. hit the F key to frame up, and let's go to my attribute editor, and let's bring the scaling of this guy back down, something reasonable. And then I'm going to use the parametric node to say the height is 0, like that, something like that. And we'll bring the scaling of this guy down. And I'm going to use C snap, C middle mouse button, and just wiggle over one of these curves. It should come over. C is snap to curve. I'll snap to that curve. I don't want to snap to that curve. I want it to... close enough. But you can get it to snap to the curve, and I'm going to have to adjust the pivot. I'm going to just do it rough right now. I'm going to hit the insert key and bring that pivot down. Insert key again. Do I want it that big? Maybe I do. I'm going to hit the E key and left control to make sure I'm in object mode. I'm going to rotate this around to an angle that I can understand. And then we'll, same with the transform gizmo, the translate gizmo. I'm going to hit the W and hold down the left key. And I'm going to switch it from world axes to object axes. So I can just move this guy down this way. Yeah, we'll make it nice and big. So he's going to be there holding on to that. And I'm going to edit, delete by type history, modify, freeze transformations. Now this is just a placeholder. So I use PRX for proxy for the placeholder. And I don't know, we'll call it baseball bat 1. Something like that, right? And I'm going to middle mouse button and drag this into my props folder, right? And I'll group it likely so I can create weapons, a weapons folder. So that's in there. That's cool. And again, I'll bring him back out. I'll export that back out as in my ASCII and then create a reference file for it. Okay, so I'm going to keep this guy sort of as sort of a de facto. I wanted him as a de facto leader, right? So maybe we'll let's move him over here because he's got to be centrally located. And then I'm going to go to the Herc rig, who's central controller. I can't see. Did I hide it? Let's see. Let's go into my display, show selection, right? Where is his? That's really strange. I'm not sure where his central controller went. I'm going to check the channel box. Visibility is on. Eesh. Okay, we got an invisible controller. That'll be okay. So this guy was stepping forward, right, on the approach. And we'll probably get this guy kind of hanging back a little bit. And this guy was the sort of the cheeky dude that I had crouching down in the middle here. So something like that. I want this guy more centrally placed. Now I got to really sort of try to think about the personalities of all of these guys, right? And what the dynamic is, right? This guy's stepping forward because he's just like, oh, screw this. Enough talk. I'm going to move him a little bit more off to the side. I'm just trying to think about the volume and the weighting of these characters. I'm thinking I need to get this guy referenced sooner rather than later. I seem to be moving him around a lot. The baseball bat, weapon, prop, whatever. So I might try something like that. So I'm going to pop in here and... oh, hey, Andrew, don't worry. I started a bit early. It's okay. You didn't miss anything. Now, here's the difficulty of this way of working with no pre-planning, no pre-production, right? There are lots of decisions that you have to make on the fly that are difficult because you don't have the context of the whole sequence, right? And one of those is, well, what's the shot going to be, right? Well, I think in this case, it'll probably be a fairly low angle shot, right? In which case, that's a horrible composition. So I'm going to maybe get him centrally located. He's definitely stepping forward from the group, right? Coming forward. So I want to create a camera that I can design to. So let's do that first, right? So I'm going to come over here and go create camera. And for this one, I'm going to call it shot one. And I do have a shot one camera. Let's see, what did I have for this shot one camera? Nothing. Let's just delete it. Oh yeah, that's right. I was doing the grease pencil thing. You know what? No, we'll keep it, but I will rename this guy SH2. I'll come back to him later. So I'm going to grab that shot camera. I'm going to hit the F key. The F key so I can, oh, it's locked. I'm going to view, select this camera. And I'm going to select the channels and unlock the selected. This way I can select the Herc character, hit F to frame up on him. And now I can place my shot a little bit better. Something like that. Okay, I'm also going to come over here and delete my grease pencil keys. Delete all of them. And looks like I'm going to have to blow away the animation on my character as well, right? So I'm going to take all that animated data that's on there at the moment, and I right click and I'm going to break connections. So that should remove all the animation, at least on his placement node. I think I might keep those poses. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so that's the shot movement I got. Now I've got my camera set up and the movement of the character sort of blocked out, but I also need my perspective camera back so I can rotate around and pose the character. I don't want to do it in my camera shot. So I'm going to go and select my camera. I'm going to right click and lock those channels so I don't accidentally move it. I'm happy with that shot, but I'm going to tear this off so I've got it as a panel. So I'm going to go into my panels and I'm going to go to tear off copy. It gives me this. Perfect. And my Windows thing happened again. Great. Bring this guy back, that guy back. There, that one. Okay. So this allows me to come in here and switch back to my perspective shot, right? And now I can make some better creative decisions based on my camera shot, right? This bat, I think I'm going to temporarily constrain just because it's driving me crazy a little bit. So, yep. Yes.
The caption thing, you cut off like half of it.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Oh, my God. Okay, hang on. There we go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, cheers. Man, I wish there was a utility that just had it as an overlay on the monitor, right? So it's always there. I wonder if there's a way to float this window always on top. There usually is. Let's take a quick look. No, I'm gonna have a look around, see if I can set this window to always on top, and then maybe that'll help in the future. Okay. All right. So back to this. I'm just going to select this guy, and you know what? No, I don't want to constrain it without having a proper rig on that. I'll show you what I was going to do, right? So I can grab the prop. I can also shift select the wrist control, right? Whether or not I want to use the wrist control, that's something I can decide on later. And I can come over to my rigging menu set, go to constraint, and choose a parent constraint. But I open up the option box so I can maintain the offset. So I'm going to constrain the translates and the rotates to this, and I'm going to add it, right? Not add constraints or connections. Perhaps I need to do it the opposite way. So the controller, shift select the object, add that. So I'm just going to do a real quick test. I grab this guy and we do rotation. Yeah. Okay. So now the object is constrained to that wrist controller. I've maintained the offset so it's staying over by the shoulder, but it's just a temporary thing. I just did that so that I can grab this guy, and whenever I move him around, right, that prop will go with him, right? But what I've shown you is in a really quick and dirty sort of scenario is basically how you get characters to pick up guns and swords and whatever. It's all a parent constraint that you turn on and off. And you can keyframe that too. I will show you that by going over to where we have the prop. You can see the constraint is added to that prop. And you can see over here, we have the weighting of how much that constraint is being controlled by the wrist controller. So if I set this to 0, right, I can grab this guy, move him around, that's not going to follow. But if I set that constraint to 1, it's going to follow, right? And you can right click and set a keyframe on that. So that's the constraint. You can turn it on and off. You can actually have it sort of degrees of coming on, right? So if you just set it to on and off straight away, the object will just snap to the hand. But if you want like a slow grab, you can keyframe the weighting of that. Oh, actually, there's an issue with that, but we'll get into that later. So that's a constraint, real quick. So I pop that on because I want my my big guy to whenever I place him to have that bat follow, right? So I'm just trying to find a nice spot for him. Now, I did want this guy as sort of the leader, kind of, right? And so he might be kind of hanging out with a big guy, perhaps, with Kingpin. No, changing my mind. Let's get him kind of. Maybe he sent the other guy off, but he's just gone. Yeah, you go get him, man. Something like that. So I'm going to bring him closer, perhaps, and a little bit more angled. Although he's, yeah, that should be okay. Let's try that. I do want to push him back a bit more, maybe. Right. Now, this guy, I don't know what to do with this guy. I haven't really kind of figured out his personality as of yet. Maybe he's the sort of the cheesy drug dealer of the group, the one who's like borderline coward. And this guy's Mr. Agile monkey style fighter guy. I'm going to start with him because I remember the pose from the last time. I want to kind of replicate that pose. So I'm going to get him down sort of into position. Now I want to make sure I'm over at frame 1 when I set up the initial poses on these guys. Okay, I know that I had something like so he's going to be down and sort of crouched over. He's going to be doing the sort of pose where he's got one arm kind of down. This is an FK arm. Oh, that's okay. We'll work with the FK arm for a second. And I'm going to want to bring that torso down a little bit. And I don't think I can I rotate this torso? No, that's the central thingamabob. And we'll grab this guy. I think no, that's the pelvis control, but we do want to round it out a bit. So, and I think I had in the original posing, which I sort of still like, I think I had this arm sort of resting on his elbow. Or elbow, on his knee, rather. So we did have a weird rotational issue here, so I need to kind of be wary of that. Like if I over-rotate this guy, it seems to affect the shoulder controller. Notice how the geometry is twisting and torquing, so I got to really kind of be careful of that. And I wonder if it's just a case of counter-rotating. No, that should be all right. Okay, so that's kind of close. I'm just noodling this pose just to try and get it to look right. So with this pose, what I'm doing right now is I'm really kind of considering weight distribution. So I'm getting him relatively close to where I want him to be. Now, there are a lot of questions that appear. You're approaching me? Who's approaching who? That's not me, Tom. There's somebody else in the house. Oh, it's an anime reference. Oh, yeah, okay. If it's an anime reference, if it's any anime reference post Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I won't understand it. And yes, I haven't seen Attack on Titan yet. Yes, I will see it. Oh, JoJo! JoJo was cool the few episodes that I saw, but I couldn't quite get drawn into it. Oh no, stuff I don't understand. Okay, so with posing, there are a number of different issues on this crouched over character that I'm running into that I didn't encounter when I posed out the Hurt character, right? So with this Jack rig, number one, crouching down, a lot of his limbs are going to get dangerously close. A lot of these controllers are going to get dangerously close to each other, right? Which would necessitate me setting up a picker page, but I won't do that just yet, right? The other thing is, where's the weight? Where is his weight? What is supporting his weight, right? So it's very, very difficult to determine that. To get him lower, I could just simply go, you know what? Just bring him down low. But you can see that that doesn't work. His limbs get like, his legs are like crushed, right? So you might just go, oh, that's what I want. There you go, fine, right? But it doesn't work that way because when he's crouching forward, he may have a little bit more of a forward lean, right? There might be some of this going on. The feet are broken, so we need to sort that out, right? So I'm just going to do a few things and I'll talk to you about sort of my next step in terms of posing something like this. So I think these are that's the heel pivot. So this heel pivot only has a rotate function. So let's get him up on his toes, right? He'll likely be kind of up on his toes, right? In this kind of a pose, right? Now I've gotten to the point where it's starting to kind of make sense a little bit in terms of how he's situated. But there is a point with every posing where you actually have to stand up and act it out, right? So I got to come down here and I got to figure out what my body's doing when I'm doing that, right? So I am leaning forward. There is a little bit more, you guys can't see it, but there's a bit more of a lean forward, and my upper torso is at more of a 90-degree angle than I first initially thought, right? So moving him forward, body mechanics wise, will make it easier for me to get him into the position that I need, right? So I move him down and forward, right? The complicated pose is coming up next because I want to get him to put his elbow on one of his knees, right? So I need to also figure out How low does he need to get? This is starting to make a little bit more sense, right? A little bit more. Let's get his arm sort of in the position that I want, which is like that. But I think that the arm needs to come out just a little bit further. The head is throwing me, so oftentimes I'll redirect my eye lines, and it'll help me sort of figure out what I want for the pose, right? So again, I need to act this out. I need to really figure out what's going on here. So I think the hand is a little bit forward. And I think the feet need to be shoulder width apart a little bit more. So I'm going to come over here and let's get these feet shoulder width apart. They're too close together to make that balanced distribution work. And an ancillary benefit in the rig is that the knees come up a little bit, which might give me a place to support that elbow. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to rotate this guy out a little bit. Check the up angle. Yeah, you know what? If I check the up angle, I can see that the legs are definitely not rotated out far enough for that pose to work, right? You can also see I'm constantly rotating around my character. That's starting to look cool. It's starting to look way better. I might change my mind and just have him put his hand there. Let's see. Let's go with the original kind of intent. So now, what are the shoulders doing in that pose? Are they up, down, forward, back? Like, what's going on with that pose? So I'm going down there again. And I'm feeling my left shoulder is a little bit higher. So this shoulder actually can come down. That feels right to me. That feels a little bit more natural. And then forward a bit, right? And I think we can bring that shoulder back. Now, here comes the difficulty, right? Like, we're starting to get a little bit of twist and torque in the upper arm, but we need to get this guy in a situation where that elbow can connect with that knee. I might have to, actually, in that pose, I was more resting on my heels when I got down there. So let's bring him down a little bit lower. I'm just a bit wary because it's crushing his legs a little bit. I wonder if there's a little bit of, when you get down in that pose, if there's a little bit of a torque. Let's add a bit of a torque there. That feels too low to me. So I'm just going to bring you back up again, just a little bit. We're getting closer. So I think we just got to bring that upper torso down a little bit more. The entire time I'm thinking of body mechanics. Body mechanics meaning, well, the first kind of concept of the body mechanics is how is weight distributed? Well, pretty much that question again, where is the weight, right? I think the shoulder wouldn't be back that far. I think the shoulder would actually come forward a little bit. Now you can see as I'm posing this out, the other characters are kind of getting in my way a little bit, right? We're getting closer. Now you got to remember, you don't want to force limbs together to make the pose work without keeping in mind, again, body mechanics, personality, etc. So I'm really sort of wary of that as I'm doing this. But also the other characters are in the way, right? So let's utilize our layers. Thankfully, the characters come with their layers already. So the layers can't come in when you reference them, right? So let's take a look at Marv, right? We can turn the controllers on and off. Let's see if we can take Marv out of the picture. We need Jack. We'll take Fred. And we're just turning off the controls at the moment, but there should also be the geometry. Get rid of that. And the geometry for the rest of them, right? So there we go. Now we can really sort of focus on just the pose of our Jack character, right? This is cool. I love posing. Man. Okay, so I'm going to actually bring this heel a little bit down so that we got more of the heel raise being favored by the other foot. And I'm also now going to break that parallelism between the feet, which also doesn't work body mechanics wise. And let's bring the foot out, which shows me that I over rotated the knee, right? Ideally, I should have rotated the feet correctly first, but let's get that sorted out. So there'd be a little bit of a V sort of distribution of the weight. But I hate symmetry. So I'm asking myself as I'm posing this guy, which foot would go out at more of an angle than the other one? You don't want like both feet at the exact same angles, right? And I think he's leaning a little bit more over this leg. So this foot would probably be more of a counterbalance. So let's do that. I'll rotate that guy a little bit more, something like that. Brings his knee down lower, gets a nicer kind of weight distribution thing going on. A little bit of a nicer pose. I know the hand's gone through the floor, but I need that later. So I've sort of left it. Now he's got to look like, you know, he's just casually kind of sitting there, but he is ready to spring into action at any point, right? So I'm actually going to bring this elbow down a little bit so it's resting a little bit comfortably on the knees. I know I've got geometry crashing, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. I just want to get this pose reasonably well articulated. And his hand would sort of be hanging down, right, like this. And let's get into, this should be the finger control. So when I select it, we should have, this rig have, oh, the rig has individual finger controls. That's all right. So I'm just going to bring this guy down. I think there's a curl. So we got a middle joint. Yeah, there's a middle joint and the last joint. So I can curl that. That's good. Oh, there's a finger IK. That's cool too. Oh, perfect. Finger IK. That works for me. There's a side to side. There's a finger stretch. So let's go in and let's see if the finger IK controls here. Oh, I see what's going on. No, that was just a on-off switch for the IK. So let's turn the IK on. Let's grab this. This should allow me to just move that finger into place. Cool, finger IK. That's good. Makes posing a little bit easier when you got that finger IK. But you can see that the controllers are now getting a little bit difficult to access. This is what a picker page is good for, right? I'm going to come through and I'm going to turn on all the finger IK because it's just going to make my life easier, at least for initial posing. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to curl that and perhaps move you down. I could probably stretch it. Eh? Yeah, I can. So move this guy down and we'll roll that finger. And I'll do the same here. Now, I used to save things like finger animation and facial animation till the very end. But I've since found that if I take the time to animate as I go, or at the very least post things out as I go, it saves me a huge headache at the end of the process. So there you go. Just going to pose this guy up. That's cool. That's looking like a pretty good sort of natural kind of pose on that. And I'm relatively close. I'm not 100% happy with this pose, but I'm relatively close. So let's roughen the hand, right? Now with this, I want to get rid of the hyper extension in the arm. So I'm going to move this guy back and I'm going to come down here and then put just a little bit of a bend in there. Just a little bit, right? I'm probably going to pop the hand out a little bit like this because I want to tent the fingers, right? So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn on the finger IK and let's bring this guy down. This is a nice rig. Okay, so bring that down like that so it rests on the ground. And we'll do the same. Turn on the finger IK here and the finger IK. Finger IK is great when you're blocking out a pose, because then you don't have to go and rotate each individual finger joint, which is super nice. But in this case, I want to tent the fingers a little bit. I'm going to hit the F key so that when I frame, that's the rotational axis on the fingers. And then let's get this guy up. And then this guy, let's move that up. And I want to add a little bit of an angle to that. Still not right. I think because the weight is shifted too far over the right leg. So I want to be able to create, that's actually feeling a little bit better to me. So there's a little bit more of a post to rest the forward weight on. And then we'll just rotate this guy up. I'm losing the tenting that I posed out. That's all right, though. Let's get that weight distribution first, and then we can figure that out in a second. That might be a little bit too far. Something like that. That's cool. I'm happy with that pose. Right? So let's bring all our other characters back. Boom, boom, boom. Right. And let's check our camera. I like that camera shot, right? So now here's the beauty of the central controller is now that I got the pose in place, I can tweak positioning a little bit. So I want to make sure he's got that breathing room in there. Where is Marv? Come back, Marv. There we go, right? The Marv controls. Right. I'm not happy with Marv's positioning, but we'll play with it, sort that out. I'm thinking maybe these guys should swap positions. And I'll tell you why. Because he's kind of a weaker character. And I think what's bugging me is that we got two strong characters. Well, we got three strong characters, all in a line on one side of the screen. So I want to try and break that up a little bit. Obviously, I'm setting up character positioning based on compositional considerations, but you also have to take into account narrative considerations when you're blocking your characters out. But let's just take a look at creating a nice composition first. So if I have a sort of a weaker character contrasted with a stronger character, maybe he's used to the big guy always kind of protecting him, right? So I'm going to put these two guys together, right? And the leader's kind of hanging back because, you know, he gives the orders, but this is cool. Okay, I'm getting there to something I like. I'm going to move this little guy who's, maybe he's the kind of guy who's always like, hey, boss, how's it going, boss? And he's like just this huge ass kisser kind of character. So he's going to be like, there going, yeah, I'm ready to go, boss. I'm ready to do it, right? So, and then this also gives a nice clear silhouette on our main guy walking forward. And I like that, right? That's cool. Now, the pose that looked cool here when I was rotating around looks awful when I look here, right? So one of the things I want to do is I want to take this arm and I want to move it down. That's the one thing. You got to always be posing towards your final camera, right? That looks a bit better. The arm looks cool here, but it looks way swung too far out back there. So I'm just going to try and choke it up a little bit and maybe bring that down a little bit. Whoops. And I think I want him bent forward way more. And we need that pelvis to curl a bit more. There we go. There we go. That looks good. I cannot express enough to you guys how much I love this. I've been doing this for years, and every single time I'm like giddy as a kid when poses start coming together. I can tell you wholeheartedly that never goes away, especially if you love doing this kind of thing. Would there be a head tilt? No, he'd be like looking dead on, wouldn't he? Head might be lowered a little bit because he'd be glowering, I think. Let's bring that neck down. The forward shoulder would be down a little bit. Rear shoulder would be up. No, that's too much, I think. That's too much. All right. And the weight distribution still bugs me. So I think he just needs to be cranked over a little bit more on top of that support leg. And then that means this leg is actually coming out too far. Oh, I know I just moved him over top that leg, and now I'm shifting that leg out again. Oh, I know what's bugging me. The knee, that's what I can't figure out, is actually the knee needs to be a little bit more out like that. And perhaps this guy needs to be out this way a little bit more. Yeah. That looks pretty badass. I don't know about you, but yeah, that's starting to look super fun. Okay, so with these poses as well, remember, nothing is set in stone yet. So let's set a few things in stone. So I'm going to, let's turn off the controls here. The reason I'm doing this is so that I know that when I do this, I've got just Herc's controls. I'm at frame 1. I'm going to hit the S key, and that's going to save all those positions for me. I might actually also shift select all of this here. No, you know what? I'll leave it. It might work with my new posing. Might be too much. I don't know. We'll see. I like extremes, especially in terms of animating. And if I have to tone something back, I will. Okay, so there's that. Let's turn off the Herc's controls. Let's bring Jack back. And we'll grab all of these. I'm happy with that pose. Hit the S key on that one. And we haven't posed the other guys yet. So let's go in there. I'll leave the controllers turned off just to kind of remind me that those characters are done. And I'll bring these guys back one by one. So let's look at Marv. Marv will be fairly straightforward to do. Well, actually, you know what? Let's move over to... Oh, crap, and I'm done. It's 12 minutes past 11. Okay, I sort of got lost in the posing there. I actually didn't want to pose out Herc. But, yeah, that worked. Actually, this bend in the arm doesn't work for me. Let me just make one quick fix, right? Super quick. It should, I think, be trailing back a little bit more, right? And then perhaps to counter that, this will be cranked a little bit more forward. It doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right. Okay, I think maybe like that. that feels a little bit better, the contrapedal motion. Yeah, it feels better to me. Okay. Okay. I swear, I'm done now. So I'm going to save this off. Right? Now, with your assignments, right? The big thing for me are the key poses, right? That's huge. When I'm marking you guys, I'm probably putting mentally more weight on your key poses than anything else. The fact that this guy is moving slowly doesn't matter to me, right? It's that every single pose is expressive, right? So even if you had it moving like this, right? I'll be assessing what those poses are, how dramatic they are, how they express body mechanics, how they propel the drama forward, how they capture the personality of the character. That's a lot. It's a lot to think about when creating poses for the characters. I am not, let me make this abundantly clear, I am not concerned that your animation is moving and is 1 minute long. That is not important. And that's going to be so important to you guys as students. You'll be like, oh, okay, I got to get my full minute. And you'll rush through and you'll be like, everything's got to be moving and it's got to last a minute. That does not matter. It does not matter, right? It has to be quality poses, right? So I want you to focus on that. It's got to be a case that when I look at the camera shot, it looks good. It's a good composition. When I rotate around your characters, they're really dynamically posed, just like I walk through here. I spent most of the latter half of the session just on one pose to impress upon you guys how important it is that you pose your characters carefully and properly, right? Okay, so that's my rant. Any questions so far about that? Any questions? Any comments? I know I was patting myself on the back while I was doing this, but what do you guys think of the poses? Any feedback for these front two guys? Yeah, it's coming okay for a blockout, isn't it? Right? It's coming okay for a blockout. There is a point where you have to pull back and say, okay, it's enough. I got it. I'll come back to it. Right? Crouchman looks malicious. That makes me very happy because that's what I was shooting for. So the fact that you got that, man, that makes me happy. Because you never quite know, do you? Right? You're posing these characters. There's not a lot of facial expression. Well, there's no facial expressions going on, right? So you're trying to capture the whole personality in just the pose. It's not easy. And I've been doing this for a while, still not easy, right? They about to wipe out tomato. That's cool. That's what I'm going for, right? They got to be intimidating AF. Otherwise, I haven't done my job, right? Now, I will go back to that. Remember, no textures, no facial expressions, no detailing. And yet, I'm trying to capture that dramatic moment, right? So that's how important the craft of animation is that like 90% of what you get of intimidation off the screen is just what the animators have done, right? There's still something, when I go to the side here, there's still something off. And it's translating to something that's a little bit off on the front. I think it's balance distribution. I think if we were cranked that far forward, he might actually, oh, I'm diving in and tweaking. I gotta let you guys go. It's like almost 20 past 11, right? Although it was supposed to be this session, next week we'll just be animating. And I'll talk you through my creative decisions. Today was a little bit of both, a little bit of technical, a little bit of creative decision making, a little bit of body mechanics. I wanted you guys to see my process, and hopefully you got a lot out of it today. And take that and put that on your own characters, on your own process of animating, right? Okay, cool. I will let you go, and we will catch up with you guys next week. Take care. Happy animating. And I can't wait to see what you guys cook up. Okay, and Do that thumbnailing storyboarding thing. That's good. I'm skipping that part of the process because I'm trying to lecture you guys. But storyboard. Right? Okay. Talk to you later. Yeah, it's, you know what? I'll end off on the Twitch stream by just mentioning the fact that the second pass is always better, isn't it? I mean, when I did this a few years ago, well, last year, was it last year? It was okay. The poses were okay, right? I was happy with them. But I'm way happier now with these poses, right? So it just goes to show second pass, third pass, the value of it, right? You really, really start to get to the juicy stuff when you're doing your second or third pass. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would love 4 passes at animation that I can really kind of work on, right? In production, you generally only get 1 pass. Unless you're working at an animation specific facility like a DreamWorks or a Pixar or whatever, right? But you know, if you're working at a smaller company, you may only get 1 shot at getting the poses right? So there you go. Okay, I will talk to you guys later. Cheers.